Yeah, I just came across an article recently about US healthcare costs. Did you know they're coming up to bad, disastrous levels? Notice they say since 2013. Do you know what happened in 2013? That was called the Affordable Care Act, AKA Obamacare. The report came out that medical credit card debt is a symptom of US healthcare. So here's what it comes down to, and this is what I'm gonna focus on more, is not just the healthcare aspect, although that's another issue too, but what about the financial impact it's having right now? As US healthcare costs continue reaching enormous levels, many Americans have turned to medical credit cards as a way to finance their medical bills. A new report from the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau is warning about the high fees and costs that come with those cards. When people are unable to pay their medical bills, this is important from both a physical and a financial standpoint, research shows this can deter them from seeking the needed healthcare in the future. So here's where it comes down to, this medical debt, right? It says, check this out guys, an estimated 41% of Americans are grappling with medical debt of some kind. 41%. I'm not surprised by this, by the way. It's very common when I see a financial situation, people will have, medical bills, but some of them will even have medical debt that they're paying on. And sometimes it's even in collections because there is no wiggle room in negotiating. I've tried. When I had literally over $1 million of debt, some of those were medical collections. They were the least flexible on how they were able to help you do that. They knew they could just go to court, put a lien on you, and then that's that, right? It was not very easy. Now they would be flexible on the terms if you want to pay it back on a monthly basis, but when it came to actually trying to whittle it down by trying to negotiate a lower balance, they're not very good. I might be negotiating maybe 80 or 90% of the balance. Unlike credit cards, which I could sometimes negotiate down below 20% at times, 20 to 30%. So you can't negotiate with them very easily. I mean, those bills are there, and we all know medical costs have been going up over time. So, but think about that. Estimated 41% of Americans are grappling with medical debt of some kind. That's almost half of Americans right now have some kind of medical debt. Those with scores below 619 incurred interest for roughly 34% of their healthcare purchases. 34%. That means if you have a lower credit score, 1/3 of your payment is not even going to paying back the medical payment. It's just going back to pay the interest, the fees, right? That's it. Crazy when you think about that. Now, here's what the main point of this whole video is going to be right here. It says, these cards are a symptom of a seriously growing affordability problems that people are encountering who have health plans that don't provide them with the cost protection they need, access to timely care. And this is what Sarah Collins had quoted, Vice President for Healthcare Coverage and Access to the Commonwealth Fund. She says, medical credit cards are definitely not the solution to healthcare cost drivers and are leaving many poor middle-class people with interest payments in addition to their healthcare bills. They may struggle for years to pay off, if ever. But let me just stop here for a second, because this is really what it comes down to. Out-of-pocket costs continue to rise, averaging $1,315 per capita in 2021. That means per person. So if you have a family of 5, that means you spent roughly about $6,500 on average for just your family of 5 out of pocket for that, for those medical expenses. If the average American is only making about $65,000, that means right there, 10% is going just to medical costs from out of pocket, not including what the healthcare providers are providing and with health insurance and things like that. And it says even those, for those with employer-sponsored insurance, the average single deductible has increased by more than 57% since 2013, while the average family deductible has risen by more than 55%. Notice they say since 2013. Do you know what happened in 2013? That was called the Affordable Care Act, AKA Obamacare. Remember, the whole purpose of Obamacare was to make things more affordable. And I was even doing podcasts. I had an older podcast back before this too. But I'll tell you, I was even predicting then, I said, guys, if Obamacare passes, watch healthcare costs skyrocket. Well, they haven't just skyrocketed. They've even allowed the deductible to skyrocket on you as well. So it means that you're now coming out of pocket more, even though you might maybe save, depending on your income, you might save on your premiums. But I know everybody I talk to, they say, oh man, health insurance premiums are ridiculously out of control. Why? Because they're not qualifying you on your health anymore. They're now saying, oh, we have to universally cover everybody. They want a universal health insurance, right? Everybody gets covered. Even if they're on death's bed, they still get covered. And I'll tell you, Americans are not getting healthier right now. If anything, Americans are getting in worse shape, especially even post-2020. Ironically enough, we're getting in worse health conditions now, driving up healthcare costs in general, right? Not to mention, of course, all the the crud you're seeing with the pharmaceutical companies and things like that. Of course, there's a lot of exploitation happening on the corporate level too, but it's from the government level driving up costs. Whatever the government touches, it gets more expensive. Now, to avoid the rant on this, the thing is, only real victim here is gonna end up being you, right? You're the one that's gonna suffer more than the government. You'll suffer more than these companies because they can always just jack up the costs and try to cover their overhead or whatever extra things they have to cover. Even doctors for their malpractice insurance, because Americans are so freaking sue happy that they gotta sue everybody, and therefore the malpractice premiums go up on the doctors and they raise their costs up on you and the health insurance companies. So it's happening everywhere, guys. A lot of this stuff is stuff that we could actually prevent. If we weren't so sue happy, if we were in better health, yes, we could actually have some lower costs. That doesn't guarantee that it's gonna be great costs, because there's still gonna be people that are gonna try to exploit it. But if you get the government out of the way, you can actually create more competition and have lower costs. That's why actually I have a policy on myself, a health insurance policy that is based on my health history, and we pay a lot less than we would ever pay on Obamacare. For example, for myself, since I make too much money, quote unquote, right? Because I make too much money, just for my wife and I, it costs us $1,800 for even just a middle grade healthcare plan on the marketplace. But instead, because we actually use our own health, our good health statistics, we can actually get it for more like $400 a month outside of that Obamacare system. So I can guarantee most people don't realize that's even an option, and that's why we're dealing with these kind of issues. So of course, when money's already tight, and we already know that inflation's been causing a lot of suffering, right? We know that credit card balances are going up, probably because of some of this going on too. We know that people are having a hard time making ends meet. This is only gonna get worse, and especially if there's interest being charged, people are running up these cards. So we look at the savings rate, right? Like, how are people saving money? Like, we notice that the savings rate is ticking downward. But what we aren't always addressing is this issue that credit cards, including medical credit cards, are going up. This is a big issue, because if people keep racking these things up, eventually you're gonna hit a point where you say, I can't do it anymore. Or the credit card company won't let me charge any more on my credit card. Now I gotta go to my savings. That's my last floor of protection, and that's gone. And voila, we're in trouble here, right? So like I said, this is a disaster. This is a problem. This is a really leading indicator for what's to come. I don't want this to be the case. The best thing you can do right now is a few things. One, we've got other videos you can watch. Of course, we talk about ways to increase cash flow, free up cash flow. I definitely recommend you check those out, because if ever before, right now, about finding ways to get creative to free up more cash, as well as increasing your income, finding ways to become more valuable to your employer. One, just ask them, what can I do to be more valuable to you that would merit me a raise? I can earn a raise from you. Not be justified and get a raise and the one that I deserve. No, don't come from a place of entitlement, but come from a place of, how can I create enough value for you? What kind of skills or things can I offer to really make myself more valuable to you? Therefore, you pay me more money because I'm more valuable. Ask them. Ask them that simple question. So few people ever do. Most people just grumble and complain that they don't get paid enough, but never actually go to their employer and say, hey, what can I do to serve you? What can I do that would actually merit me a raise? Be upfront with your intentions. Say, I want to make more money. Inflation's no secret. I want to work here. What can I do to be more valuable to you so that it's worth it to you to give me a raise? Ask them that question. Watch what kind of magic could potentially happen, especially if you deliver on that, especially if you do it with an attitude of going that extra mile and serving. There's always hope, especially if you're proactive and take action now so this doesn't happen to you as well. Guys, if you thought this video was great, check out this next one, horrible budget advice that you get on TikTok. You gotta see my response to that one.